This conference
Thank
will
you.
now be recorded.
Okay.
I'm getting a message recording, so we're all good. Okay, Woody, unmute, please. Everybody unmute. Thank you. All right, good evening, everybody. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals, Darien. Everybody on mute, please. I'm getting feedback. Thank you. Try that again. Good evening, everybody. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals, Town of Darien, on July the 15th, 2020. It's 7:03 p.m. Again, with these Zoom meetings, the only thing that I ask is everybody remain on mute, and when you're ready to talk, I'll have a short delay so you have the time to get your phone or whatever you have to do to click back in and speak. Okay. This evening we just have a couple of changes. We're technically not going to go in the order that is posted on the door, only because we have a postponement and a continuation. First postponement is calendar number 13, 2020, the application of Dennis Peters on behalf of Christopher and Christine Barkley at 5 North Road. That hearing is postponed due to an unnoticed additional requested variance, so they'll have to renotice, and we'll see them on September the 16th. I am then going to now jump to calendar number 12, 2020, the application of Christopher Pagliaro on behalf of Sam Fuller for property on that's Contentment Island, 40 Contentment Island, Darien. And that hearing is now opened and continued until September 16th. Okay. Moving on to public hearings and general business. So we're going to start with calendar number 11, 2020, the application of Ted and Beth Bonanno for an address at 3 Outlook Drive to allow the construction of a second-story addition. And we have just a section 406 requested variance, 33 feet in lieu of 40 feet, minimum front yard setback. The applicant is Amy. Are you going to do the presentation tonight? Amy, can I help you?
Sorry, I'm unmuted now. Sorry. Yep, I am going
to. Oh, okay, great. Hello, Amy Zavatakis. Welcome back to the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Thank you. So I am Amy Zavatakis, Rucci Law Group. I'm here on behalf of Ted and Beth Bonanno, who are the owners of 3 Outlook Drive. Ted and Beth should be on, I don't think they're on video, but I believe they're on by phone. And I also have, oh, there they are. Also have Michael Abuglio, who's the project architect, and also Glenn Smith, who is the project engineer. I also saw his name on the list, but I don't see him on video right now. But we'll have Michael or Glenn speak if needed. Are you seeing my screen now, the
yes.
presentation screen? Okay, great.
Yes.
All right, so this is what the proposed new house would look like. Hold on, sorry, I'm having a little trouble figuring out how I need to change slides. There we go. So this is the survey, and I apologize, I couldn't figure out how to do in this presentation format how to make it any bigger, but you should have a full-size copy in your packet. But basically what we have is a corner lot. So we've got the two front yard setback issue. This is also an undersized lot for the zone. So what you can see a little better on your the full-size survey is that there's a very small buildable area. It's the blue lines on the survey show where the setbacks are. The existing house was built in 1931, so before the zoning regulations were in place. And So it was built in a legally non-conforming location. The front of the house currently is 33.1 feet from the front property line, which is on Outlook Drive, rather than the required 40 feet. The existing house is a 2-bedroom Cape-style house, and is, not big enough for the growing family. So the proposal is to put on a second floor. Basically take off the whole existing second floor and put on a new second floor. They are expanding slightly the first floor, but they'll be expanding to the back, so in a conforming area. So really the only thing that we're here for is the portion of the second floor that is in the front yard setback. And I have, let's see if I can get to my next slide. Why is this not working? I apologize. There we go. You can see the second floor plan. This was prepared by Mr. Labuglio, and you can see he's actually drawn on for you the setback line, so you can see what portion of the second floor would be in the front yard setback. Again, no closer to the front yard than what is there now, just a second floor. They are going to end up adding about 258 square feet in that front yard setback area. Glenn Smith, and the reason he's on the call, was the project engineer. He has taken a look at the house and the structure and has determined that it is, that he will be able to retain all of the first floor walls. Obviously, there will be some changes, as I said, on the first floor, but towards the back. But other than that, all of the first floor walls in the setback and foundation will be retained. We do feel like this is the minimum adjustment necessary. Again, as you can see, this is not a huge house, even with all of the new additions. Still a not a large residence. Again, we can go look at what we've got now. The next slide, if I can get to it. Sorry, technology works really well sometimes and then doesn't. And Fred can tell you I did this before and had no problems with it whatsoever.
Amy, sometimes there's a little bit of a delay in the system.
I don't know.
Try clicking on the slide with your cursor.
Yeah, the problem is the way that my screen worked out, I'm not in front of it. Well, I mean, I'll let you say, you've got it in your packages. I just was going to show you the existing house, which is in your packet. As compared to the proposed, it's a very small house now. What's proposed is not a huge house. And at some point I'll be able to get to the, oh, here we go. Here, there we go. That's existing right now. And then here's the proposed. We have notified all of the neighbors, and I submitted to Woody this morning. We did get actual letters of support from all of the adjacent neighbors. So 2178 Boston Post Road, 5 Outlook, 6 Outlook, and 2 Outlook all submitted letters of support. And there has been no letters of objection received either by my client or, to my knowledge, by the board. So we are asking for a variance of section 406 to allow this second floor addition that will be 31.1 feet from Outlook Drive in lieu of the 40 feet required. There's a legal hardship due to the corner lot setbacks and the lot size requirements, all of which came about after the original house was constructed. And I think this is the minimum adjustment necessary to create a livable space for this growing family. A 2-bedroom is simply not sufficient for a family with kids. So, and as I said, I do have both the architect and the engineer and the applicant on the line. So if you have any questions for me or for them, we'd be happy to answer them.
Can I ask a question, Jeff?
Jeff, I think you're muted.
Jeff is muted. Amy, let me ask you this.
I apologize. So I'm sorry about that, Barb. I was muted. Thank you. Thank you. Technology, Amy, right? By the way, Amy, hang on, Barb, just one second. Amy, it's been a long time, but nice job doing it within 10 minutes. I greatly appreciate that.
I'm trying.
Barb, go ahead, please. I know you are. Barb, go ahead, please.
I second that comment. Well done, Amy. I noticed that all the homes pretty much line up with this home, and I'm guessing that the neighbors' properties are also within the 40-foot setback. Do you happen to know if that's the case?
That's interesting that you said that. I looked at an overhead view from the tax assessor's map, and it looked like the other houses were a little bit further back than this one, or else we would have come in. I think there is a regulation that says you can match the whole streetscape. Again, we're not real far into the front yard setback, so I think that that's the other reason why this isn't really a huge imposition on the neighborhood. Again, it's about a little less than 7 feet into the front yard setback. So it's still over 30 feet away from the front lot line. And then there's the road easement. So it's still a decent way away from the road.
And I'll also comment that it is by far the smallest house on the street of the homes. So point in case.
Okay, thanks, Barb. Other questions from the board?
Jeff, may I?
Yes.
This is Chuck. And I guess, Woody, this is really addressed to you. I know that one of the staff comments had to do with the engineering, and you're pointing out that the original report in June indicated that there was a limited structural inspection. And I'm wondering whether this report dated July 13, 2020 is satisfactory to you now. Did this solve the issue that might have existed?
Well, what developed was Mr. Smith did a follow-up letter, which we have, and that seems to be pretty definitive, except for one question I do have. Mr. Smith confirmed the foundation can remain, the first floor deck system can stay, even the first floor walls, I believe. The question that comes up is this house has an unusual second floor like balcony space between some second floor rooms. And I guess it has limited first floor ceiling or second floor system. So anyway, the question is how much of the existing second floor structure would be kept? I know the roof is cut off. Are they going to keep any of the existing second floor?
I can have Michael respond to that or myself, but the second floor is coming off entirely. And in fact, we're not including any of the second floor space.
That's true.
Pardon me, the question is the floor structure itself.
Okay.
The floor
Michael.
joist on the upper level, is that all coming off?
Yes, Woody, that's all coming off.
All right, hang on. I need to interject here. Michael, could you introduce yourself, please, for the record, please?
Okay. Yeah.
Sure, I'm Michael Labuyo, the architect.
Thank you.
Okay.
And will there be a usable attic as part of this? And will any of that be finished?
Michael, I'll let you answer that as well.
No, there will really not be a usable attic. And it will not be finished.
And one more question. Woody, you said something about the deck. They are not removing the existing deck, so there's nothing that they're taking away. They're adding 258 square feet, but there's nothing that they're removing, right? No shed, no deck.
Well, again, just to be clear, we're not adding 250 square feet. That is just the second floor, so it's over the existing coverage. So we're not adding. We are adding some new coverage, but in a conforming area. So we're not taking away any coverage. The deck is staying, and we are adding a little bit of first floor space in the back of the house. But the 258 that I referenced is just the amount of space in the setback on the second floor.
Amy, on the back deck, the patio, on number 7 in the staff questions, there's a suggestion that the back patio might be in violation of the zoning regulations. Can you address that?
Yeah, I think that there is a regulation about patios that are on grade are not considered part of coverage, but do need to stay a certain number of square feet from the lot lines. That's not something we had really focused on. If it's a requirement of the board that patio be pulled back, that can be done.
Okay, because one of the things that a personal peccadillo of mine is I don't like to vote in favor of variances if there's an existing violation that can be remedied. So if in fact that's a violation, and I'm assuming it is, I would like that to be remedied if we are to vote in favor of the variance.
That's fine. I discussed that with my clients, and they're prepared to do that if needed.
Does is there a garage on the property?
No, there's not.
No garage?
No.
Amy, is it underneath of the right-hand side deck? Is that where the parking is now?
Maybe Michael or Ted, maybe you can respond to that. I don't think that's where. I mean, that's where the cars go, but.
Yes, this is Ted Bonanno. We park underneath the deck. Driveway and underneath the deck.
Pardon me, who was that responded?
That was me, Woody,
Michael?
Michael.
Amy?
Yes.
This is Vic. What are the plans for the AC units? Where are they going to go?
The AC units will be moved under the deck, and
Under
they'll
the
be.
Is that in the buildable area?
Yes, it is. They'll be placed in the buildable area.
Okay, thank you.
And Amy, are there plans for a generator? That was mentioned in the staff notes also.
I'm not aware of any plan for a generator. We're not asking for a variance for a generator location.
Then my only other question is, was there a landscaping plan submitted for any of this?
No, we did not submit a landscaping plan because again, we're not adding any new footprint in the front. We're just going up, so there's not really anything that needs to be screened. This is the front of the house on the roadside. So in fact, we think this is going to be an improvement to the curb appeal of the road and this property in particular.
And Amy, Chuck, again, you mentioned that this is the addition that you're proposing is a suitable addition for a family. I'm assuming this is not a spec deal or anything like that. You're suggesting to us that in fact the Bananas are going to live there.
Yes, that's correct. And Mr. and Mrs. Bonanno are both on the call if you'd like to hear from them directly.
No, I believe you.
That's always a good thing. Okay. My questions have actually been addressed, so I'm okay. The rest of the board, any questions, comments, or concerns? Okay. Woody, same to you, sir. Questions, comments, and concerns from staff?
I think we've covered everything.
Okay, good. Are there any neighbors online here that would like to address the board? And I'm going to take that as a no as well. Okay, with nothing further to add on this application, I'm going to go ahead and close the hearing. Okay. Thank you very much, Amy. Great to see you. I hope all is well, and best of luck to everybody.
Great to see you all as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Not sure if I needed to tell everybody about the deliberation. They're welcome to listen in, but I'm pretty sure they know that. So, okay, everybody, thank you very much. Let's move on to some other business, if we could. Well, I guess no. Excuse me. Let's deliberate. Excuse me. Let's go ahead and deliberate. Questions, comments, concerns from the board?
I like
That's a
it.
no.
I'm in.
Okay. Okay, fine. Do I have a motion to approve?
I will make a motion to approve.
Second?
Hey, Jeff, maybe we ought to get a record.
Somebody go. I can't hear you, Vic. So, Chuck, go on mute for a second.
Yeah,
Maybe
Yeah,
we
good.
ought to
Thanks.
get on
Vic?
record, just for the record, what the hardship is.
True that. Agree with that. Okay, well, listen, you brought it up. Fire away.
Well, I think it's an undersized lot, number one.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's got 2 front yard setbacks, so it limits what they can do in the setback area. And that's as far as I can go. I don't know what else.
I think that's about what I heard. Does anybody else have anything to opine on that?
no, I think that's about it, isn't it?
What I got. Have.
Did you feel that they made the minimum adjustment?
That's true.
That's a really good. That's a really good question. You know, I'm actually okay with it. I don't think it's overdone with regard to the minimum adjustment. Anybody else feel differently?
No, I think 258 square feet under the circumstances is probably the minimum adjustment taken into consideration, the structure that we're dealing with.
All right.
Do you want to put Chuck's comment about removing or bringing the deck into code?
Yes.
That we should stipulate.
Yeah.
Excuse me, that would be
Woody.
the patio. That would be the patio.
That would be what? The patio, yeah.
Yeah, patio.
So Chuck has indicated that he would prefer to have that patio violation corrected, and I happen to agree with him. We normally do that, so as a standard of practice, let's have him pull that patio back. Amy said they were willing to do it, so let's do it.
Good, that's good. So I think that covers it then, right? I mean, I think it's the minimum adjustment. I think 258 is not a heck of a lot under the circumstances. Seems to be a fairly small house. We didn't get the details on, the size of it pre and post, but I still have the sense that it's a reasonable proposal. So I know there's a motion, and I don't know if there was a second, but if there wasn't, I second it.
Thank you, Chuck. You have now seconded, and just for a matter of point, the size of the house is around 1645, and it's going to 1925 or 45, something like that. So
Okay.
it's noted in some document I read, might have been item K or maybe even staff questions. I'm not too sure, to be honest, but I did note that, and I appreciate you bringing that up. So I have a motion. I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Everybody good? I believe that's unanimous, Woody.
Yes, it appears to be 5-0.
Yep. Vic, thanks
Okay.
for bringing me around on that minimum adjustment and the stipulation stuff and the hardship. Thank you. Okay, I'm ready to move on to other business. Let me first talk about, if I may, Woody, mute, Chuck, mute, please. Let me first talk about this historical preservation of properties. So this is getting a groundswell of support throughout. So let's address this. And several people have asked me for, have discussed having a committee, a subcommittee developed. I know Barb is very interested. Woody sent me an email today suggesting that Chuck might have some interest, and also Vic, but completely up to you guys. But I do know for a fact that Barb is interested. So before I appoint her chairman and anybody else, so can you just, look, everybody can be on the subcommittee if you want. But I think a smaller group is better. That's just my opinion. How am I doing in terms of Chuck and Vic? Is that something that you guys want to do? Something you have interest in?
Yeah, I think it's a cool thing to think about. I think we should do it. It sort of came to the forefront in the last month or so when we were dealing with Prospect Street and the Middlesex Road property. And I happen to live in a house that theoretically might have some historical significance. So, I think it's an interesting thing to get involved in, see if we can come up with something. So I'm happy to do it.
Okay. Vic?
Yeah, sure. I have a question though. Is this just residential, or is it residential and commercial, Woody?
Good question.
Huh. That's a good question.
Yeah, because it technically falls under ARB jurisdiction, which does fall with commercial.
Yes, I think the intent has been to try to put some guidance on the consideration for homes and historic properties that homes have been sitting on. I haven't heard much about the commercial properties. Barbara's perfectly right. The commercial properties already have a layer of architectural review that homes do not. So it's mostly a residential.
Let me make I will make a comment to Vic's point that in some of these cases, we've discussed rezoning to allow limited commercial use. So I could see that it would cross over into that. So I think that's a very fair comment. I don't know how to answer that, but I think that's going to come up.
Yeah. And if I do get on this committee, I think maybe a first step might be to try to check into some of the other historical towns like Essex and Old Saybrook, and there's a Kent and all these things. I'm sure they might have guidelines on how they're dealing with it. So that might give us a first starting point.
Marianne Castell has done a lot of heavy lifting on this, mostly driven by, I am getting the pondweed listing in town, which is the oldest home in Darien. And what drove that was a very collaborative process where ZBA, Planning and Zoning, Architectural Review Board, Darien Historical Society, Preservation Society of Connecticut all came together to discuss, look, we're going to keep coming up against this stuff. Shouldn't we have some type of guidelines that define, you meet 2 out of these 10 criteria, hence you can move forward with a variance application. So I love your comment about seeking out what other towns have done. Marion may have already done that. And quite frankly, if I were on this committee, I'd push as much off of this on her as possible. She's passionate about it. She's a former first select woman. She knows what she's talking about. I think some of the work has been done.
Oh, good. And did I read correctly that she has outlined the areas in town that are actually the historical areas? It's on a map somewhere?
They're trying. The hesitation, and I'll say from a realtor's perspective, is when you put a historical designation on a home, all of a sudden there are limits as to how you can market and sell that home. It's not a desirable thing from a sales perspective. It's highly desirable from a town perspective. And I've also spoken with Jamie Stevenson a bit about this. And, of course, you can imagine she's super careful about what she's willing to do from a town perspective. But I think her bottom line is that if someone's willing to do the work, preserve a home, she's willing to go to bat and seek grant money, find benefactors, those types of things to support this kind of work. That doesn't really answer your question. your question is, are there historical districts? Technically, there are not. Darien holds 0 historical districts. Liz Geiger from the Architectural Review Board bent on getting them in place. This is her driving purpose to get Prospect Avenue and areas of.
Hang on, I'm getting feedback. Go on mute, please. Not you, Barb, but everybody else. Thank you. Got it.
Is it better
Chuck, I
now?
think it's you. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Yep.
so you're right, Vic, that has not occurred. I think that's where she'd like to go, and everybody's being very careful about that because what it implies towards the sales and the values of these homes. If you move into a neighborhood that has a historical designation attached to it, I mean, crap, all of a sudden, now your house, you can't do that addition you want. You can't tear it down. You can't change your windows. I mean, it's very limiting. So I think it's tricky, but I think this is not something we're going to get around. Darien should have done this years ago, from my perspective.
My concern is that if you believe that designating something as historical is going to affect the saleability of somebody's home, you're going to give the zoning board or somebody the power to do that, to decrease the value of somebody's asset. I mean, I'm bothered by that.
I am as well. And certainly Marianne Castell and Liz Geiger are very aware of that. They're not sure how to get around that piece. What we're talking about with the Pond Weed home is incentivizing someone by saying, look, if you restore this home, we'll consider granting you a variance that allows you to take a portion of that property and develop it to your liking. Now, it's not 100% guarantee, but that's a hell of a carrot for somebody. So I think this is, I think it's still very arbitrary, but I think Marion has taken the first step in outlining 10 to 12 points, which kind of pre-qualify a home as potentially historic.
Well, maybe this is a committee discussion, but my view of this, the way I was looking at it going in, is that we were actually going to give historical homes the benefit of a doubt when it came to having a variance. In other words, we were going to allow the Prospect Street or the Prospect Avenue property to have a variance when maybe we wouldn't have done it, but they told us that it was going to, enhance the historical perspective of the house, and we granted a variance for that reason. So I thought we were going to be more lenient towards historical homes rather than less.
I like that. I would like to see the committee be more lenient and grant more options than less. That would be my goal if we were to form a committee. Honestly, I mean that's the incentive. Like let's do the best we can to preserve these homes, but also increase the value of our town and the saleability.
I don't disagree with that. Yep.
I'm jumping to a conclusion that the committee should come to, but take Prospect Avenue, for instance. Every house on that road is different. They're all completely different. So are we supposed to preserve the neighborhood or preserve the architectural component of the house? It gets really tricky. So I don't know what to do with that, but that's for the committee.
And not only that, Vic, but you make the point. I mean, this doesn't just take into account 1800s homes. You could have a Frank Lloyd Wright home that was built in the 1930s or 40s that also qualifies as a historic home. So I think it could get tricky, but I think it bears some consideration.
Yep.
I agree that granting districts is a lot harder than looking at a house on a case-by-case basis.
Yes.
Okay, I think we basically formed our committee here. Dan, I don't know about you, but I'm good with these three.
I'm fully behind you, Jeff. They are the best.
Yeah, no, I'm good. I might join the committee.
We have to meet at the Goose if we're going to do this. I don't know that we should be having these kind of formal meetings. We should do this offline.
Oh no, you guys. So here's the deal. So yes, Barb, your discussions are going to take place offline and on your own. Although it looks like it's going to be a lively conversation, I might want to join it myself, but I'm good there. All right.
Mr.
Listen,
Chairman,
I'll leave it to you. Yes.
excuse me, Mr. Chairman. If we have 3 members, that's great. That would be wonderful. We may have to post so-called a meeting of a quorum of the board when we have 3 members, but that's fine. That's something we can easily do. And where we do it, we might have to announce we're going to meet in room 213 or the Coos or the library or wherever. So as long as we have a committee, we have a process in place, we can make some progress. Might be good to suggest that we come back with a report by September 16 or October 12, whenever that is.
Well, I don't want
Always
to put a date
respond.
on it right now, Woody. Let's take one step at a time. Let's form the committee first and have them have their lively discussion, and then they can sort of work out a time frame and an agenda going forward as far as I'm personally concerned. But I believe we should leave that. Sorry, I shouldn't put my hand up there like that. But I believe we should leave that to the chairman of the committee. So with that, I'm going to nominate, I guess this is how you do it. I'm going to nominate Barb Hazelton and Vic Capilupo and Chuck DeLuca to be members of this board. And I will leave it to the 3 of you to nominate a chairman and vote for that chairman. I don't think that that's my, not responsibility, but I don't think that's my prerogative. But in any event. So Dan, are you okay with what I'm doing here?
Yeah, I'll second it.
All right, good.
Hey, Jeff,
So,
Jeff,
yeah.
one question. Is there room or should there be room for Castell to be on the committee or an ARB member to be on the committee or anything like that?
Oh, I think that's a terrific idea, and I see Barb shaking her head too. So of course, and I think I think that's up to the subcommittee or the committee, whatever. I don't think it's I'm not the chairman of that particular board or committee. So I think you have a great point, Vic, and I think the 3 of you should huddle at some time and sort of develop a whole plan, like who should be involved in the discussion and what your time frame is and that sort of thing.
Okay.
Mr.
Anybody else
Chairman,
have any?
Yeah,
Yep.
Mr. Chairman, there may even be value in consulting with the town attorney, town council. Make sure whatever we adopt eventually run into some legal difficulty.
I don't disagree with that. I think at this point, any idea is probably a good idea until it's completely vetted by the committee. So I'll leave that to them as well, and I'll leave the decision-making process to the chairman that these 3 choose. And Woody, if you want to join them as well, that again is up to the committee, but that option is also open. So yourself and John Luisos and Marion Castell, and I'm sorry I forgot the gal over at ARV, but Liz
Geiger,
something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Liz, yeah. And so I'll leave that up to you. I believe Dan is supporting this whole effort. So between the 2 of us, we leave it to you all 3 to take this whole idea forward and come back and give us an idea of where you are and what you plan on doing going forward on September the 16th. We'll have it in other business. Mike will probably chair that night, but in any event, I'll bring him up to speed. And then, you'll have a venue on September the 16th to let us know where you are and what you've decided and who's on the committee and who's not and your time frame. Is that okay with everybody?
Fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. I think we can
Yep.
get some parameters, but any regulations that we're thinking about don't have to be promulgated by the PNC. But putting that aside, I mean, Louisa's can help us with those issues. But I'm happy to do it. So why don't we just nominate Barb and have Barb set up a meeting, and we'll meet at the Goose and see what we can do.
You saw that email too.
Yeah, but we should look at towns like Litchfield, for instance. You can't have a house in Litchfield that's not painted white on the main street, and it's kind of cool. And I'm not sure we're ready to do that, but imagine something like that in Darien on the Post Road. If every one of those buildings from Brookside, down to the train station were all painted the same color, how awesome that would be. Can we make that happen? Probably not. But, just these little types of things that I think we should think about, at least, and if we can't make it happen, then we can always make sort of an aspirational approach to it. So Barb, I'm looking forward to it, and I'll buy the first round.
I love it.
Vic,
All right, Dan, are
Vic,
you sure you don't want to be a part of this? Dan, this is going to be a fun committee. Dan is like, no, I want nothing to do with this. Okay, I'll get in touch with you two offline, and I'll keep it real simple. We'll keep it simple.
All right, I got to interrupt here just for a second. Vic, I assume that Chuck's nomination of Barb as chairman is approved by you. You okay with that?
Yeah, I tried to squeak in. I second that. So yes.
Okay, good, great, awesome. Hey, congratulations, Barb.
Thank you. You know I'm an alternate on this committee, right?
Not
Yes.
for long. I'll fix that.
Technically.
That's
Okay.
irrelevant to us. That's irrelevant to us, Barb. You are now the chairman of the historical committee.
Exactly.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Thanks, everybody. Listen, I really appreciate your willingness to volunteer for that and address that. And I happen to agree with Chuck. That'd be totally cool if we could get all those houses looking like that. Because I've been down some of those streets. I forget, it's on vacation somewhere. I don't know if it was Nantucket or wherever the heck I was, but I was somewhere, and that was a pretty cool thing. All right, so Woody, you want to let's talk about the approval of minutes for June 17th. Did everybody have a chance to look at those on your email? Or any other way? Yes? Do I have a motion to approve the June 17th minutes? I'll second
I will
that.
make a motion.
Thank you. I got it. I'll second that motion. All in favor?
Am I voting on this? Am I voting on this one, Jeff? I can't.
Were you there June 17th? I'm sorry, I forget. Apologize.
Okay. Yes, no.
Vic was not there.
Thank you very much, Woody. I just saw Dan's hand go up.
I was there, but I was not
cool.
participating. I was.
Understood. So Woody, that's 4-0 there.
Sure.
All right, for approval of June 17th minutes. All right. I got to turn up my light, you guys. It's getting a little dark in here. Okay, boy, that makes a little bit of a difference. Oh, geez. I can now see. All right. Okay, let's see. What else do we have to do tonight?
If we go back to the earlier part of the agenda, the way this was set up, we have election of officers, we have the 2021 meeting calendar, and also
Thank you. Okay.
application form. Be great to get that.
Okay, thank you. I can. All right, I'll address all three of those. First of all, did everybody have a chance to look at the calendar? I saw a couple of people opine on it tonight, and everybody so far that I saw was okay with that calendar. I'm okay with it. Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve the 2021 Zoning Board of Appeal meeting schedule. Do I have a second? There we go, Chuck. All in favor? Good, perfect. Okay, good. Then I'll go to the application form, or well, you want to do? I don't care if you do officers or application form first. It doesn't matter to me. I have the form in front of me, so let's do that. Woody, if I recollect correctly, this was Chuck's thought process in terms, and I totally 100% agree, because we always ask the same question. I believe the whole issue here is how big is your house now, and how big is your house going to be? So where have you slated? All right, I've got this open. Vic, Chuck, have you looked at this? You looked at this document?
Yeah, I looked at it.
What are your thoughts?
Well, I told Woody it's the same thing I looked at Yeah, I like to know the size of the house only because, you know, it impacts my thinking on minimum adjustment necessary. So if we can get the current size and then the proposed size, that would be helpful, because sometimes we ask that question and they don't know the answer. So this will force them to answer that question. And the other thing I thought on the application, I don't know why we ask about restrictive covenants. You know, we don't have the power to enforce those. We don't even know if they are enforceable. You know, oftentimes they're not. They're private causes of action, and we've never, ever dealt with a restrictive covenant since I've been on the board, and it's been more than a decade. So I'm just wondering, why don't we just take it off?
I don't have a problem with that because I've been on this board twice as long as that. I think I'm going on 19 years now, and I hate to say that, but well, I don't hate to say it. I just hate to admit it because I'm just getting older. I have never come across that that issue, so I happen to agree with you. I would be happy to remove my opinion is I'd be happy to remove that and add the square footage before and after. Woody, questions, comments, or concerns with Chuck's idea?
We happen to have one circumstance, 3 or 4 years ago, a proposed dock. I believe it was on Condemned Island Road. And we actually got a application before us. We had public hearing. We had a neighbor that opposed. And subsequently, so we continued the hearing. Subsequently, the neighbor's attorney found that the applicant actually had a deed restriction that prevented them from having a dock down to the shoreline water. They withdrew their application to us. That's the only time I can recall that this came up and it kind of cluttered our agenda, if you will. It wasn't enforceable by us, but the neighbor was ready to challenge any ZBA approval of the dock. And I don't know if they would have won or not, but the applicant ended up dropping it. So I think Chuck's right. This is rare that it comes up. I'm not sure it has direct value to us, but I think that's why it's here, because many years ago it was added to the application for odd circumstances like that. That's all I can offer as far as why.
Okay, thank you. How does the rest of the board feel? Vic, how are you feeling about that restricted covenant issue?
I can't see it hurting to keep it there just in case of one of these things come up, but you know, I'd probably keep it there.
Okay, Dan?
I'll keep it.
Okay, Barb? Never mind, we're keeping it.
I have no idea. I default to whatever you guys say. Honestly, I have no idea.
You know what?
There's no downside to keeping it, right? If there's no downside, I'd keep it.
The only downside I can see is if somebody comes in with an application and there is a restrictive covenant that would prohibit them from doing what they want to do. Then the ball is now in our court. Okay, now what do we do about that? I mean, we can't enforce a restrictive covenant. We don't have that power. That's for a court to do. Restrictive covenants are like contracts between two people and have nothing to do with us. So I'm just afraid that if an application comes in and there is a restrictive covenant, it's going to influence us to maybe deny an application for that reason. I think that would be a really, really bad thing to do. I think that would be totally reversible in a court. So, I mean, maybe it's helpful to know it, but I don't think it can influence us when we consider an application.
Okay,
Well,
I like that. I like that answer.
If something like that does come up, can we just refuse to hear the application?
I don't think so. I mean, it doesn't impact our jurisdiction. We have jurisdiction, and if the person who is entitled to enforce it, whoever that may be, and there may be nobody entitled to enforce it over, you know, goes by for years and years and years. I mean, there's restrictive covenants that have all kinds of crazy things in them. You know, it's up to them to do it, not up to us. So anyway, it's interesting to know, but you know, what you do with that information when it comes up is sort of unclear to me. And I'm just afraid that, you know, when we begin talking about that in a public hearing, you know, we're overstepping our bounds and stepping into a dispute between private individuals, sort of like a court. And that's always been my take on that. So I'm willing to bend to the majority on this. I mean, if you're interested in knowing whether there is one, that's fine, I guess, but I just would urge you not to be influenced by it when you consider an application.
So Chuck, just to follow through on that dock issue, the guy did have a restriction on putting a dock out there. Should we just ignore the covenant and just go ahead and say, okay, it's good, go ahead and do it?
Yeah, I would base our decision on our regulations and say it doesn't violate the regulations, or we're going to grant you a variance. We think that there's a hardship, and go from there. So if the guy then builds a dock there, then who's ever got the right to enforce that deed restriction can bring an action in court to have him remove it. But I don't think that we should be making that decision if he otherwise is entitled to a variance under our regulations.
Okay, just seems a little sticky.
It is, but I mean, we'd be stepping into an area that's not our business, really, and enforcing deed restrictions that maybe nobody even wants to enforce, you know, and we're enforcing them.
Yeah, okay. You're the lawyer.
Maybe I can add.
Yeah.
Maybe I can add a little bit here. Like in the case of the dock on Condemned Island, we had a public hearing. Neighbors were notified of the proposal, and they showed up at the first hearing, but they didn't challenge this deed restriction item as part of their supposed right. It only came up afterward when the neighbor hired an attorney to dig into things, and the attorney found this problem. It would have been a whole lot better if, before we even started a hearing, the neighbor had decided, no, I don't want a dock out there, and I'm gonna exercise my deed right or whatever it is. Just saying that it is awkward that you get thrown into that position of evaluating something. And maybe if it's on the application form, we're kind of stuck with acknowledging it at least. It might be better not to have on the form at all.
I think we should ask
Right.
Luizos about it and what his thinking is about our relationship and our responsibility with respect to private deed restrictions. Because I think he'll tell us that we don't have any responsibility whatsoever with respect to those. So, but I mean,
Yeah.
Don't take it from me. I'm not a real estate lawyer, but I've been involved in litigation involving deed restrictions in the past. So I know a little bit about it, but I'm sure he knows more. So why don't we just ask him what he should know in about 2 minutes.
I agree with that, and I'd also like to hear from Mike Netter, obviously, his opinion on that as well. So I'll speak to Mike tomorrow just to bring him up to speed on what happened tonight, and see what he has to say. And Woody, I'll take care of Mike. You take care of John Luizos. Let's get their two opinions as well, okay?
Yeah.
You know,
And then Mike can make a decision.
Confusion, where the confusion lies is that lay people tend to think that deed restrictions are enforceable by anybody. You know, that if there's a deed restriction, then you can't do anything contrary to the deed restriction. But that's not true, because only certain people are entitled to enforce deed restrictions. Let's say Barb has a deed restriction on her house that she can't do X, Y, or Z, and she wants to do it. Chuck DeLuca, who has a house 14 miles away, doesn't have the right to enforce that deed restriction, to tell her what she can and cannot do, because that deed restriction is meant to favor a particular party. You know, it's in favor of somebody, usually the person who grants the deed. The grantor of the property will put a deed restriction on for the benefit of certain people, not for the benefit of everybody in the community. So again, I think that might be some of the confusion with respect to deed restrictions. People think that you just can't do it, and that's not true. But I agree with Jeff. I'm not going to talk anymore about this. And, you can talk to Luizos and Mike.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, if I could just add a little point here. What we did in the
Mhm.
application form, right above where it's deed restrictions on the second page, had a long-term question about, as part of the project, are you proposing to demolish all or part of an existing structure? Obviously, this comes up darn near every application. We'd like to add, if yes, the specific segments to be preserved must be identified. What we want to do is put the burden on the applicant up front to focus on this, so we don't have to get to a situation where there's confusion later. So that's why we're suggesting to add this extra clarification line. Okay.
I'm okay with that. I mean, certainly, I mean, if hang on, if yes. Okay. I'm actually okay with that because that certainly does come up. So, board thoughts on that? I'm actually okay with that. It looks like everybody else is too. Yeah, go ahead, Woody. Put that in there. That's sort of. You okay, Barb?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
looks.
I always look to Chuck on this stuff, on the legal stuff. I don't know, Chuck.
Yeah.
Whatever Chuck says.
Yeah, whatever Chuck says. And I'm with that. Listen. Yeah, no, I don't mind that. I think the more information that we get up front, everybody, the better, because then, frankly, these hearings really should be a little bit shorter. And furthermore, then we don't have to, come back to the issue like we did with Bonanno, because what they did, they submitted a letter that said limited structural review. Okay, well, that staff didn't like that. So, okay, then they came back with a rather detailed letter that I did read, explaining exactly what was going to be left there. So I believe this is a good idea, whoever came up with this, because it will take a lot of work off of Woody's desk and frankly, our desk, so to speak, going forward, because we'll already have the information as opposed to trying to drill down on it in a hearing and then having to come back and then tell me again or confirm with me again, does the foundation support the structure? So enough of me talking about that. Let's add it. Everybody's in agreement here. So if we need to vote on that, Woody, I'm happy to make a motion. Do I need to vote on that?
I think we have the loose end of the deed restriction clause.
There's no loose end there. No, there's no loose end there. You're going to check with John Luizos, and I'm going to check with Mike Netter, and we're going to form an opinion. There's no loose end there. We'll come back to that. What I'm talking about right now is specifically the applicant provide us with what's going to be reserved in a home that's being taken down in part or in whole in item K. That's what I'm talking about now. So everybody agrees with that. If I need to vote to have that particular item included on this form, please tell me now.
I don't think so.
No, good. Okay, so we're good. So I think in the end here that we've decided to add that to the form. We've also decided to add the existing building and the proposed size existing building, to the form. And then we'll circle back on the issue of restricted covenants, okay? Or deed restrictions. Is that the same thing, Chuck? Restricted covenants and deed restrictions?
Same thing.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Just want to make sure before I get caught saying something that is not correct.
If you don't mind, by the way, what we did is we took out a really long 1.5 inch or so section of the application form that asked people what side of the road they were on the west side or the whatever, how many feet they were from the nearest intersection, stuff that took up space and didn't really have a big benefit. So, so we've opened it up to have this other information clarified and deleted what we don't need and still kept it at 2 pages. That's
Okay.
great. That's good progress. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I never really care how far the house is from the street is from the intersection of Middlesex and whatever. Boy, it doesn't.
We always
I
have to
don't
check
think
it.
it.
As staff, we always have to
Yeah,
check it
yeah.
anyway. People
Yeah,
living right
I
now on the
understand.
wrong assessor map and lot numbers.
We don't care about that, really?
Just so you know, we make sure in the legal notice it's accurate, exactly where it is, on which side, and some other details like the assessor and lot number. But applicants
Okay.
commonly guess wrong. They think they're on the east side of the road and they're on the north or some
Okay.
other side.
Okay, got it.
Well,
So you're just saying it's a
understood.
technicality that the assessor would cover. Okay.
Yeah,
Well, we'll do that.
we'll take care of it.
Thank you. Appreciate that,
Good.
Woody. Okay. I'm done here for this evening. So unless anybody has any questions, comments, or concerns at this point, I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
How about election of officers? Can you three
I
guys do that?
apologize. Yeah, we can do that. I apologize. Okay, so if everybody saw Woody's email, Mike is, generously offered to step up again to be chair. I don't mind backing him up. Although, where is he tonight? It's fine. Not a problem. So with that, we're only voting for a chairman and a vice chairman. Is that correct, Woody?
Correct.
Okay. How do I do this? I mean, I hate to vote. I can't vote for myself. So let's start with Mike. All in favor? Do I have a motion to re-elect Mike as chairman?
You know what? I'll make a motion to re-elect Mike as chairman and Jeff as vice chairman. I think you guys have done a wonderful job, and I'd like you to do it for another year.
I'll second it.
Okay.
I'll
right.
third that. Great job, Jeff. Great job.
Hey, Vic,
Thanks. Oh, yeah. Okay,
Vic,
so
would you mind seconding the motion? Vic, would you mind seconding the motion as a regular member?
I think
Dan seconded it.
I second it. Woody.
Yeah, it's supposed to be an election among the regular members, that's why.
Oh,
Oh, okay, so it has to be Vic or,
Sorry.
it has to be Vic.
I'm
Okay.
sorry. Seems goofy, I know.
it was just me
that's
and
fine, Woody. We want to be
All in
procedurally
favor.
correct. It's perfectly okay. All in favor? I'm in favor of Mike. I can't vote for myself, so we're all set
And
there.
Jeff.
Okay.
That's
Thanks,
good.
everybody.
We're
Well, I
good.
don't know why I'm thanking you, but thanks for voting for Mike. Appreciate that. How's that one? Okay, I apologize
Okay,
for
great.
overlooking that. I believe I've covered the last three items in other business. So
Yes.
unless anybody has any questions, comments, or concerns, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
I second.
All right, all in favor of adjournment? Aye. There
Aye.
we go, 5-0. Okay, channel 79, we're done for the evening. Thank you very